But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine, until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth, as it is in heaven.
We're living in a time we're gonna meet Yahweh Shai. You're gonna meet him face to face, which is proof also that we have to be changed. We can't meet the Lord like this. He's gonna change you, he's gonna crown you, and he's gonna toast with you. Sometimes when Akim are among each other, we'll do little small toasts. Brothers may be like La Yasharala, holding up cups. But imagine the Lord himself hosting it, man. And we join in. And I was reading something else, and pretty much they said in order to have what they call a loyal toast, you will use wine. That's the beverage of choice. And once again, our Lord, he's coming back. And we're going to see him with all that power, man. But he's going to extend that power to you.
The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs of God, and joint heirs with God. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same, in hope, because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body.
And once again, when our Lord returns, he's going to wield that power to you elect as well. Once again, he's going to change you, he's going to crown you, and he's going to have a toast with you. A kingly toast, which will basically be a celebration for victory over the beast, victory over this system, victory over Edom Rome coming back, and Edom Rome's mark, which will be that Quran. So we're gonna celebrate with our Lord Yahweh Shai, and honestly, there is no telling what all he has in store for us.
Drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament.
You still on mute, bro.
Hey, Shalom. All right, first and foremost, we would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples for his younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds. In the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. All right, we'll GMS Mississippi Camp coming with another, all right, weekly lesson. All right, and we're going to continue on, all right, in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter, working our way, down the statue, and we made it to the leg of iron, which is symbolic, okay, of the pagan Roman Empire, okay, the empire that was, in power during the time of Yahweh Shai, the apostles, okay, when you read the New Testament, okay, we was in the captivity under the legs of iron, which represents the Roman Empire, which started with Julius Caesar, okay, and ending, all right, with the Flavian dynasty, the last Edomite emperor, okay, of the Flavian dynasty was Domitian, you know. So this era, you know, represents, you know, the legs of iron, okay, of Esau, Edom, okay, the pagan Rome, all right. So we're gonna get into it, you know. We got video, you know, got some history on the chat, you know, to tap into, you know, and just to go into, all right, these the leg of iron, you know, which um is revived today, you know. Matter of fact, we're gonna get it when we get to verse 33. Get that Daniel 2 and 21 first, and then jump.
This is Daniel chapter 2 and verse 21. Can you hear me good, bro?
Yeah, I can hear you, bro.
This is Daniel chapter 2 and verse 21. It says, and he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding.
Yeah, so these prophecies, you know, is how the Lord shows that he is. You know, real quick, let's get the book of Isaiah 46 and start at verse 9. You know, so when we go into prophecy, okay, and the Lord, all right, gives the vision to the prophets, okay, or he gives, all right, the prophecy through the angels to give to the prophets, okay. Well, the Lord is making the statement that he is, you know. This is how the Lord shows that he is, by stating, okay, the future before it happens, and then causing, all right, their future, okay, to become the present, okay. So when you go into Daniel, all right, the Lord made a major statement by prophesying these kingdoms that will come and that will fall, okay. But you got it, bro.
Come. This is Isaiah chapter 46 and verse 9. It says, remember the former things of old, for I am the most high, and there is none else. I am the most high, and there is none like me.
Go ahead.
Verse 10, declaring the end from the beginning and from the ancient times, the things that are not yet done.
Yep.
Saying,
So
go ahead.
yeah, so the Lord from the beginning declared the end, you know, and that's how he flexes to show that he is. All right, because he declared these things from ancient time, and now we've just been seeing these things happen. All right, and not only have they happening, but they're happening how he said they will happen. Go ahead.
Come. It says, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure.
Yep. So the Lord's counsel is standing. What we seeing happening, man. You know, the reality that we exist in is all within the counsel of Yahweh Bashim Al Shah. There's nothing that's happening outside that counsel. You know, so the things that we see happening today, you know, America, you know, being this superpower in the earth, okay, having this tension with Russia, you know, Russia and Iran, you know, China, Turkey, having these alliances, the small hats doing what they're doing, you know, the fact that they're in the land, you know, claiming to be us, man, that's all the counsel of the Lord, you know. So when we look into this book, okay, this is a living book, all right, and everything is in existence is subjugated to what's written in this book. Nothing is operating outside the will of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, which can be explained, you know, through the book. Okay, so let's go back to Daniel 2 and jump to 31.
This is Daniel chapter 2, starting at verse 31. It says, the old king saw us and beheld a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part iron and part clay.
Yeah, so the image, you know, going back into it, just a quick rundown, quick review, you know, his head, all right, was a fine gold, the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, okay, his breasts and his arms of silver, the Medo-Persian Empire, his belly and his thighs of brass, all right, the Greek Empire, and his legs of iron, all right, the Roman Empire, you know, and that was the order that these nations will come into power, okay, exactly according to this statue. And Daniel has this dream, okay, when he was in the head of this statue, man, the Babylonian, you know, empire, okay. So he prophesied the rest of these empires that will come into power, okay. This was the statue, the vision that was given to Nebuchadnezzar, and Daniel was interpreting it, okay. They say his legs of iron, which represent the Roman Empire, and his feet, part of iron and part of clay, which we did a lesson on that. That's what we began with, all right, because his feet part of iron and part of iron clay. His feet part of iron and part of clay, all right, represents this beast system of the day, America, NATO, and EU, which what is the legs of iron revived in the earth, okay, is the America, NATO, and the EU, you see? So we're going to emphasize on the transition from, you know, the thighs of brass, the Greek Empire, all right, transitioning to the legs of iron, which is the Roman Empire, okay? So let's we go ahead and get that video, and then I'll say we'll get some history, all right, from chat, you know, to go into this. You got it, bro.
I'm getting it pulled up now.
No, you good. Yeah, so
Ancient Greece was a cultural, political, and economic center that influenced the development of Western civilization for centuries. Despite their military strength and national pride, the ancient Greeks never formed a unified kingdom, preferring the independence of their many city-states, each ruled by an autonomous king. This disunity among the ancient Greeks sparked internal wars that weakened Greek society at the time. This allowed for the invasion of the emerging Roman Empire. Roman expansion into Greece began in 215 BC, when they established an alliance with the city-state of Philip V of Macedon. This was an answer to the success of the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca's conquest in the Iberian Peninsula and Italy. The alliance between Macedonia and Rome was broken by distrust between the two powers. In 197 BC, the Romans defeated Philip V's army at the Battle of Cynocephalae, consolidating their control over Macedonia and further expanding their influence in Greece. The Romans won thanks to the superiority of an innovative battle tactic called manipulo. The goal was to divide the army into small groups called manipules, which could proceed independently of each other. On the other hand, the Macedonians fought uncoordinated, helpless. The defeat was devastating for Philip V, and his position in Greece was seriously weakened. The Battle of Cynocephalae is considered a milestone in military history, as it was the first time that the tactic of manipules was used on a large scale, and proved to be extremely effective. From 171 to 168 BC, there was another war between Rome and Macedonia. Perseus, son of Philip V, led Macedonia in the conflict. The city of Athens, long at war with Macedonia, declared support for Rome, which made it easier for Romans to land and advance on Greek soil. The Roman forces, led by Lucilius Aemilius Paulus, achieved a decisive victory at the Battle of Pydna in 168 BC, marking the end of the war and the beginning of Roman rule in Greece. In the following years, Rome participated in conflicts with the Achaean League, an alliance of Greek city-states to maintain independence against growing Roman influence. The Greek peninsula was conquered by the Roman Republic during the Battle of Corinth in 146 BC. This battle was a major confrontation in the Third Punic War between the Roman forces led by Lucius Mummius Achaicus and the Greek forces of the Achaean League, led by Diogenes of Sinope. The battle took place near the Greek city of Corinth. The Achaean League allied with Carthage and Macedonia to resist the growing Roman influence in Greece. After Carthage and Macedonia were defeated, Rome focuses attention on the Achaean League. The Roman forces outnumbered the Greek forces in sheer size and tactics. The battle resulted in a decisive victory for Rome. Corinth was sacked and destroyed, and the Achaean League dissolved. Rome's victory at the Battle of Corinth was the end of Greek independence and consolidated Roman control over the region. This battle was between Rome and Carthage. The city was razed in a previous campaign, led by Roman politician and general Scipio Aemilianus. Rome's victory at Corinth consolidated its position as the ruling power in the Mediterranean and established the Roman Republic as one of the greatest military powers of antiquity. The Roman conquest of Greece had a significant impact on the region. Rome defined a new political and economic order, unifying Greece under a single administrative system. Rome also brought its culture and religion to Greece, blending Greek and Roman traditions to the point of influencing European culture for centuries. Rome implemented its technology in Greece with new forms of construction, agriculture, and administration. Greece also subsequently became a center of Christianity, with many Greek cities becoming epicenters of early Christianity. But the Roman conquest of Greece was not welcomed by all Greeks. Some saw Rome as an invading foreign power and resented the loss of independence. This sparked revolts against Roman rule. One of the most significant revolts was led by Aratus of Sicyon. Aratus led the Achaean League during the war against Sparta and was a prominent leader in Greece, but he was eventually captured by the Romans in 146 BC, dying in prison in Rome. Another Greek leader who resisted against Roman rule was Andronicus, a Greek who claimed to be the last descendant of the Macedonian dynasty of Antigonus. Andronicus led a revolt against Roman rule in 133 BC, but was quickly defeated. Nevertheless, the uprising inspired other Greeks to resist against Roman rule. The final Roman occupation of the Greek world was established after the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, between the forces of Mark Antony and Cleopatra, allies of Egypt, and the forces of Octavian. This battle took place near the Greek city of Actium, on the west coast of Greece. Octavian's victory at the Battle of Actium established the Roman Empire as a power in the Mediterranean and cemented its control over the ancient world. The battle was also the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the empire. Octavian became the first Roman emperor under the name Augustus. The Battle of Actium is one of the most important battles in ancient history, with a significant impact on the politics, culture, and military strategy of the Mediterranean. It is often cited as a classic example of naval strategy and tactics. Starting in the 3rd century BC, the mighty Roman Empire went into decline and was divided into two parts, the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. The western portion was gradually conquered by the barbarian tribes of Northern Europe. The Eastern Roman Empire.
So yeah, that's the main part, we wanted to touch on, was a transition from the Greeks to the Romans, so just to, recap on a few of the key points, okay, during that transition, from the Greeks, all right, to the Romans. Now, when you go, see if you can, remove that one, bro. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So yeah, just real quick, just to hit a couple of points. So you had, the first battle, with Rome and the Greeks, all right, in 197 BC, all right, Rome defeats the Macedonian King Philip V, all right, marks a turning point in Roman involvement in Greek affairs, and that's when Rome, began, all right, to infiltrate, Greek, all right, government, okay, and foreign, policy, okay. They said Rome established a dominance over Greek's traditional power, Macedonia, which that's where Philip and Alexander were from. It says Battle of Magnesia in 190. Rome defeats the Seleucid king Antiochus III. All right, Rome curbs Seleucid expansion into Greece and Asia Minor, reinforced Rome. All right, protector status over Greek states. Okay, so now what we're seeing, from 197 on down, is Rome will begin, to win a series of battles, all right, against these different Greek, city states, all right, and began to dominate, all right, the remainder of the Greek Empire, because at this time it was mainly the Seleucid Empire and the Ptolemaic Empire that was still relevant, from the time of Alexander. All right, then you had the Battle of Pydna in 168 BC. Rome defeats the Macedonian king Perseus, ends the Antigone dynasty. All right, Macedon becomes a province of Rome in 148 BCE. And it goes down. It said Rome destroys current, all right, a major Greek city state, and you got the book of Corinthians, and that's why they talk about how Greek, how the Greek Empire became an epic center of what they call Christianity, but you had a lot of Jakes, okay, that was in these Greek city states, that began to follow Yahushua, as the gospel went forth. Apostle Paul went to these different, all right, and that's why the scriptures say there's neither Jew nor Greek, all throughout the scriptures. Was we went into that the last lesson we went into, but it said marks the effective end of the Greek political independence. Same year, the destruction of Carthage, Rome asserted dominance over the Mediterranean. See, prophecy was with Rome, because 146 was a major year because Carthage was a superpower in the Mediterranean. Okay, and you had Corinth, was a major port and trade epic center of the of Greek, all right, of Greece. So you had Rome, take both of them down. Okay, which we're going to get into with prophecy, man. Okay, but it says let's jump down a little further. So after 146, all right, that was the year when it was a major power shift, towards Rome, from the Carthaginians and the Greeks, to the Romans. Now, real quick, I wanted to ask it. Let me ask it again. So you had this term called the Greco-Roman Empire, so just to go into that, because you hear brothers say that, the Greco-Roman Empire, so just to bring up that term, it says, what is the meaning behind Greco? Because this is what Esau has revived in the earth today, is this beast system. Let's see. I thought I had it pulled up. All right, so when you go into what is the meaning behind the Greco-Roman Empire, all right, just real quick, hit a couple points. It says the Greco, all right, equals Greek plus Roman, all right, Greco-Roman. So just real quick, it said the term Greco-Roman combines Greek, Hellenic, cultural elements, philosophy, art, science, literature, and democracy. All right. Roman contributions is the law, engineering, administration, and military organization. All right, because the Greek culture and philosophy, and art, okay, and democracy played a major part, okay, of the Roman Empire. It says cultural and intellectual fusion. After Rome conquered Greek territories from second century BC onward, which, like I said, it began in 196 BC. When Rome began winning decisive battles, and consuming, okay, the Greek Empire. It said the Romans adopted and preserved much of Greek culture. Greek became the dominant language in the Eastern Roman Empire. As a matter of fact, find it in the Gospel where it speaks about how when Yahushua was crucified, it's still in John, the 20th chapter, I want to say. I know it's in a few of the Gospel. Just find out. You should be able to pick Latin, Jews, and Greek, and it should pick up, you know, the Latin, well, the Greek and the Latin and the Hebrew. So like, and it says, Greek became the dominant language in the Eastern Roman Empire. Roman elites studied Greek philosophy, literature, okay, and science. Okay, so the Roman Empire was heavily, you know, influenced, okay, by Greek culture. You know, it says the Greco-Roman world refers to the Mediterranean region under Greek and Roman cultural influence. This includes language, all right, Greek in the east, Latin in the west, religion, shared gods with different names, architecture, columns, temples, amphitheaters, education and philosophy, Plato, Aristotle, Stoicism, you know, with Jake, you know, was the main philosophers, okay, of the Greco-Roman Empire. You know, even Marcus Aurelius was known as the Stoic philosopher emperor. You know, it says political concepts, citizenship, law, and republic. Okay, so let's get there. You got that preset you found there, bro?
You talking about John 19 and 20?
It's somewhere in there.
What talks about what was written? What was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin?
Yeah, get that.
I got you. You done with the I don't know, because it usually let us put both of them up there.
Yeah, I'm done with that. You can go to that.
I have found something on that for you too. I'm gonna read this for you. This is John. Let me get straight to the point.
Yeah, get to the point.
This is John 19 and 20. It says, then read this title then read many of the Jews, for the place where Yahushua was crucified was nigh to the city. It was written in Hebrew and Greek and Latin.
Yep. So showing you the influence of Greek culture even during the time of Yahushua, you know, because the last stronghold of the Greeks, you know, was Egypt under Mark Antony and Cleopatra, okay, which they were both Edomites, and there was roughly about 34 years before the birth of Yahushua, you know, so you're talking close to 70 years later, you know, you still see Greek, you know, language, you know, being relevant, okay, within the Roman Empire, you know. You said you had something else, bro?
I got so a quick look up going into just kind of really add to what you were going into. Let me bring it up. Just quick Google search to guy. This one here first. It says, I just typed it in real quick. It's going off the coin. Said, what is the meaning behind the Greco-Roman Empire? It says the term Greco-Roman Empire refers to the cultural fusion between ancient Greece and Rome, which laid the foundation for Western civilization.
Mm-hmm.
So you got it.
What's been revamped in the earth, you know, is the Greco-Roman Empire. All right, because it's the same people, you know, that governed, all right, and ruled Greco-Roman, all right. The Greco-Roman Empire back then, they're back today, you know, ruling as well America, NATO, and the EU, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's just as people, okay, are reincarnated, kingdoms are reincarnated, okay, and there's no doubt that this is the Greco-Roman Empire, you know, and still ruled by Greek philosophy, all right, the gods of Greece and Rome, you know, the entertainment, the literature, all right, even when you go to the Renaissance, you know, it was the revival, okay, of Greek medicine, you know, Roman, you know, art, Roman culture, okay. So this was being revived in the earth. And see, these devils, they want to make it digital. They want to make this an eternal, okay, age, you know, and they think they're going to do it through left-hand means, you know, through technology and witchcraft. You know, you got it, bro.
I got another one for you real quick, because you correct me if I'm wrong, because when you go into the New Testament, when you look up that term hell, it goes into Hades, and that term Hades
Mm-hmm.
come from Greek culture, where you have this false interpretation of hell being this underground place where it just you burn forever. That goes back to Greek philosophy,
Yeah,
and
Greek mythology.
mythology throughout it, bro. It's a quick one for you here too. It says, how is the U.S. related to? We know the U.S. is Babylon the Great. How is the U.S. related to the Greco-Roman Empire? It says the U.S. is heavily influenced by ancient Greece and Rome, particularly in its government, architecture, and legal systems. Greece provided the concept of democracy, while Rome contributed to the ideas of a republic, separation of powers, and checks and balances, which is evident in the U.S.'s, which is Babylon the Great's government structure of legislative, executive, and judicial branches.
Mm-hmm. So even go, democracy is where you get, the voting, of the people, and then you have the republic to where the people that are voted in, you have three different branches, the legislative, the judicial, and the executive, which the president is in the executive branch. Okay. And then you have, the Congress and the House. Okay. In the other branches, the Senate. Okay. All these are in, the other two branches. And they're supposed to be an equal check and balance so that neither branch, becomes too powerful. And what we're seeing now, is a breakdown of that, with Trump, moving like a dictator, because why? They want to bring in, the culture, okay, and the philosophy and idolatry of the Greco-Roman Empire without, those liberties, okay, that was given to the people, So this new world order, all right, is a much more oppressive, all right, much more wicked, Greco-Roman Empire on the Esau Edom today, you know. But we can get that in Daniel, the 7th chapter, bro.
Con, got
Then you
you.
start at verse 6.
Con, got you. This is Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. It says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings as a fire, of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
Yeah, so this is the Greek Empire under Alexander, and it will be divided up, by his 4 generals after his death. Those 4 heads. All right. Ptolemy, Cassander, Seleucid, and Lysimachus. Okay. And what will happen, those 4, all right, generals, okay, will have dynasties. Okay. But during that time of those 4, dynasties, you will have the Roman Empire, okay, that will begin to emerge, all right, and begin to consume, all right, the Greek Empire, okay, once we just went into their history. Now, read verse 7.
Coming back into it, verse 7, it says, after this I saw in the night's vision, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns.
Yeah, so this 4th beast, okay, is the Roman Empire. All right, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, because we just read how, the Roman legions, they, all right, proved to be superior than those Greek phalanx, all right, because those Greek phalanx, which was a formation and a tactic, a battle tactic of the Greeks, that was superior, all right, that was the most superior, all right, tactic of the time, all right, as far as open field battle, okay, but we seen the Romans, with those legions, okay, be superior than the Greek phalanx, and that was a turning point, all right, power, okay, being transferred from, the Greeks to the Romans, Okay, and it said and devour and break in pieces and stamp with the residue with the feet of it. You know, because Rome just dominated, you know, the kingdoms of the earth. You know, Rome just was a dominant force, man. It was an iron empire. Okay, it ruled with an iron fist. Okay, you didn't comply with Rome. You know, them legions were showing up. Okay, and it says it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. You know, so it was diverse because it didn't rule with a monarchy. You know, it ruled with a senate. Okay, ruled as a republic. Okay, which was a different style of government than the 3 monarchs. All right, that came before it. You know, so it was diverse. You see, but now, all right, this kingdom has been revived. All right, and is known as the beast. Okay, or the dragon. When you get to the book of Revelation. Matter of fact, let's get that. You had some? Did you have some?
Not yet, bro. We're good. You said Revelation.
Yeah, yeah, Revelation 12. Cause see, this is the Rome has been revived. Matter of fact, before we get that Revelation 12, um let's get this. Okay, and then we're gonna
You got some?
let's get Romans 13. All right, and start at verse 1.
This is Romans it's like in Romans chapter 13, start from the top at 1. It says, and I stood up on the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns were 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
Yeah, so this beast, you know, represents Esau's, all right, governments to dominate the earth. Okay, so you had, you know, the Greeks, the Romans, all right, the British, okay, the French, you know, the Spanish, okay, Germania Major, Germania Minor, okay. So this represents the 7 heads of the dragon, you know, these Edomite governments that dominate the earth, all right, and these 10 crowns represented these vassal kingdoms, okay, that was subjugated or subservient, you know, to the empire. Okay, so because you go into an empire, you know, it represents a government, all right, that rules over other kingdoms. Okay, so this is, you know, what John the Revelator is seeing, you know, the conglomerate, okay, of all these different Edomite government and empires, okay, that would dominate the earth. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 2, it says, and the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and
Yeah,
his mouth. Go ahead.
when it says like to a leopard, you know, which goes into the Greeks, Alexander, you know, so this represents the beginning, okay, of Esau's dominance in the earth, you know, because under the Greek Empire, this is when Edom, you know, became a superpower over other governments. Okay, and then say his feet was like the feet of a bear, which represents Russia, because Russia is an Edomite, all right, government. It's not a part of the beast. It's not part of the dragon. Okay, but it's an Edomite government, which is going to be the end of this man. Okay, this war with Russia, this is going to be the end. That's why his feet was likened to a bear. Okay, because it represents the end of this devil. All right, this war with Russia. Go ahead.
Read on. It says, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority.
Yep. So the mouth of the lion, you know, going into London, you know, which represents, all right, the banks, okay, because the banks are the mouthpiece, okay, of this man's power structure, you know, because it's the elites, okay, that are really, you know, the kings, you know, behind the veil, okay, of this Edomite government that dominates the earth, man, this beast system, okay. And it says, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Yeah, that's the Roman Empire. Okay, so the authority that these devils, all right, have today, you know, is the authority that the Roman Empire had in the earth in this prime, in this heyday, in this golden age. Okay, where it was able to interfere, you know, with the affairs of all the governments of the world, you know, and they dominated the earth militarily, man, you know, and economically. You see, so these Edomites, you know, they, you know, inherited their power, you know, from the ancient, you know, Roman Empire. Okay, you read verse 3.
Verse 3, and it says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death,
Yep.
and his deadly wound was healed,
Yep.
and all the world wondered after the beast.
Yeah, so one of his heads was the Roman Empire, you know, and that was the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Okay, which that was the last, you know, residue of Esau's authority. All right, under Rome. Okay, because Jake, you know, had rose up, you know, and Jake had begun to dominate, all right, the Roman Empire as a dimension, all right, in the 96 AD, you know, Jake had began to be prominent, okay, and eventually Esau was completely pushed out, okay, so he was wounded, his kingdom was wounded, all right, but it was healed, okay, as the what? As NATO, America, and the EU. You know, and it began to heal during the time of the Renaissance. All right, when these what you had at time of European colonization, because Europe, you look at the EU, you know, it's pretty much the same territory of ancient Rome. Okay, but you have a little horn that will come out, all right, of these governments of Europe, which will be America. All right, the horde that rided the beast. Okay, so this wound of ancient Rome has been healed. All right, but it's only been healed, all right, for the Lord to throw down. Matter of fact, let's get that Malachi 1 and 4. Let's get in the NLT, and then we'll end it with the Revelation 12 and 7. Baba Kashah.
Come on, I got you. You say NLT?
Yeah, let's get that Malachi 1 and 4 in the NLT.
Come on, Malachi chapter 1, verse 4 NLT. It says, Esau's descendants in Edom may say, we have been shattered, but we will rebuild the nations. But the Lord Yahweh Shemal Shai of heaven's armies replies, they may try to rebuild, but I will demolish them again. Their country, go ahead.
No, you got
it. Their country will be known as the land of wickedness, and their people will be called the people of whom the Lord Yahweh Shemal Shai is forever angry.
Yo, so going back into Malachi 1 and 4, Esau's descendants, okay, because it was Esau, all right, that ruled the Roman Empire, man. Okay, during the time of the apostles. Okay, during the time of Yahushua, that was Esau that was in power. Okay, so Esau's descendants, okay, and those same Edomites of Rome, that's why you have what Nero back in office today. Okay, so we have been shattered, but we will rebuild the ruins. Okay, so they were shattered, all right, during the fall of Western Rome. Okay, but they've been allowed to rebuild the ruins, okay, during the Renaissance period. You see, but the Lord of Heaven armies replied, they may try to rebuild, but I will demolish them again. So now we're in the time where the Lord is going to demolish them again. Okay, and as they're attempting to double down, all right, through technology, you know, and tightening down on their power, on their grip of the earth, well, the Lord's in the midst of throwing down, and that's why he has raised up the prophets, okay, to proclaim, okay, that the Lord's getting ready to throw down again, and this time it's for good, okay, and their country will be known as the land of wickedness, and their people will be called the people whom the Lord is angry forever, man, and the Lord is finna show their anger through war, okay, and that's why we're going to get, you know, Revelation 12 and 7, you know, this is the end, all right, that dragon has been revived in the earth, okay, but this is the end of it, okay, So yeah, let's get that Revelation 12 and 7, bro.
Con. Revelations 12. God, this is Revelation 12, verse 7. You want NLT or KJV?
You get the KJV. Yeah, that's cool.
Revelation 12, verse 7, KJV, it says, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels.
Yeah, so this is the war in the atmosphere. You know, when you're speaking of the heaven in this context, you're talking about the Shemayim. You know, when you go and look up, okay, the atmosphere, you see the stars, you know, the sun, the celestial beings. Well, this is where this war is going to take place. You know, that's why everyone is going to be able to see, okay, this war in the heavens, okay, between Yahweh Shai, all right, and the heavenly host, okay, and these heathens beginning with Esau and Edom. Esau, Edom at the forefront, okay, NATO, America, EU, okay, they're going to be at the forefront of this war, all right, so this is their clash, all right, between Yahweh Shai, all right, and the militaries of this world, beginning with Esau. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 8, it says, and prevaileth not, neither was their place found anymore in heaven.
Yep, neither was their place, all right, their authority, okay, the authority of ancient Rome is going to be stripped. Their militaries are going to be removed, okay, from the Shemayim, the atmosphere. They're going to be obliterated from the atmosphere, man. Okay, and their power, their place, their position in the earth is going to be found no more. Okay, Yahweh Shai is coming to strip this man of all authority and titles, man. All right, and obliterate this man's military, his force. Go ahead.
Verse 9, it says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels was cast out with him.
Mm-hmm. So that's the devil being removed from power. Okay, his militaries, okay, being turned to dust and falling to the earth, you know, by the chariots and Yahweh Shai. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 10, it says, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power, and the power of his Mashiach. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night.
Yeah, so that's the ultimate victory, man. You know, because and then this is why I say that ancient serpent, that old serpent, because this is a victory, all right, that's going to reach all the way back from the garden, you know, to when we first fell, you know, under Adam. Okay, so Yahweh Shai is coming, all right, to once and for all, okay, destroy the influence of wickedness out of the earth, man, which began with the serpent, okay, and it's playing out, all right, through Esau in this time, okay. So this is our great victory that we got coming. You see? So this Greco-Roman Empire, you know, will be revived in the earth, you know, right before the coming of Yahweh Shai. All right. And this is where we stand according to prophecy, you know. So that was the point, you know, Lord will, you know, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. We want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom.
Shalom.